Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll dive into what if Deku was trained by Jiraiya and Kakashi as his co-trainer for 3 years. Smash that subscribe button, and be sure to peek at the description below. Let's begin. The sky over Muzdalifa was a bruised purple, the color of a fresh hematoma, signaling the transition from late afternoon to the creeping dread of evening. For Izuku Midoriya, the color matched the state of his heart. He walked mechanically, placing one red sneaker in front of the other, his yellow backpack feeling like it was filled with lead rather than textbooks. The sensation of the rooftop railing against his palms was still fresh in his mind. The wind that had whipped his hair, the dizzying drop to the street below, and the crushing, suffocating weight of the words that had been spoken to him. I cannot simply say you can become a hero even without power. The number one hero. The symbol of peace. All Might himself. The man whose smile had been the sun in Izuku's sky since he was a toddler watching a grainy internet video. That sun had eclipsed, leaving behind a frail, skeletal man and a hard truth that cut deeper than any villain's blade. It's better to be realistic. Realistic, Izuku whispered to the pavement. The word tasted like ash. He wasn't sure where he was walking. His feet knew the city better than his conscious mind did. He navigated the grid of streets, avoiding the eyes of passers-by, his head bowed. He was a ghost haunting his own life, a boy diagnosed with a terminal case of irrelevance in a world of superhumans. Boom! The sound rolled through the concrete canyons of the shopping district, a low-frequency tremor that rattled the glass in the storefronts next to him. Izuku flinched, his head snapping up. Habit, deeply ingrained and impossible to break, took over. An explosion? A villain attack? His legs moved before his brain could countermand them. He ran toward the smoke rising like a dark twisted finger against that bruised sky. It was masochism, he told himself. Why go? Why watch heroes do what he never could? Why torture himself with the sight of dreams he was forbidden to have? But he ran anyway. The void between worlds. Time did not exist here. Nor did space. There was only the crushing pressure of infinity, and the violent, tearing sensation of reality trying to reject foreign bodies. Jiraiya, the toad sage of Mount Maiboku, had thought he was dead. The last thing he remembered was the rain of the hidden rain village, the piercing agony of pain's black rods, and the cold embrace of the water as he sank into the abyss. He had made his peace. He had sent his message. The tale of Jiraiya the Gallant was supposed to end there. But death, it seemed, was complicated. Instead of the pure land, he found himself tumbling through a kaleidoscope of violent colors, his chakra coils screaming as they were compressed and stretched by forces beyond his comprehension. Hold on, Ero Sennin. The voice was strained, familiar, and impossible. Jiraiya forced his eye open, the one that wasn't swollen shut. Through the chaotic swirl of dimensional rift energy, he saw a flash of silver hair and the distinct green flak jacket of a Konoha jounin. Kakashi? Jiraiya croaked, though there was no air to carry the sound. Kakashi Hatake was in bad shape. His Sharingan eye was spinning wildly, bleeding red streams down his mask, glowing with the ominous geometry of the Manjikyu. He was gripping Jiraiya's arm with a desperation that defied his usual aloof demeanor. Kakashi had been on the battlefield of the Fourth Great Ninja War. He had been fighting Obito in the Kamui dimension, a clash of space-time ninjutsu, a miscalculation of chakra resonance, and suddenly the dimension had fractured like shattered glass. He had seen Jiraiya's soul, or perhaps his body, drifting in the ether, and instinctively, foolishly, reached out with Kamui. Now they were both caught in the slipstream of a broken universe. I can't control the exit. Kakashi grit his teeth, his visible eye widening in panic. The chakra drain was immense. It felt like his very life force was being siphoned off to fuel the tunnel. Let go, brat. Jiraiya tried to pull away. Save yourself. Those who abandon their comrades are scum. Kakashi roared back, the old lesson echoing in the void. I'm not losing anyone else. The tunnel constricted. A white light, brighter than 1,000 Chidori, blinded them both. The pressure vanished, replaced by the sudden, sickening sensation of gravity returning with a vengeance. Takoba Municipal Beach Park. The sound of their arrival was not a boom, but a tear, a screeching sound like metal shearing against metal, causing the stray dogs on the beach to howl in unison. The sky above the mountains of trash piled on Takoba Beach seemed to fracture. A rift of swirling black and red energy spiraled open, spitting two figures out before snapping shut with a concussive pop. They hit the garbage hard. Jiraiya crashed into a rusted washing machine, flattening it instantly, and rolled down a hill of tires. He groaned, the familiar ache of bruised ribs and exhausted chakra flooding his system. He lay there for a moment, staring up at the alien sky. Not the pure land, he wheezed, sitting up. He checked his body. The black rods were gone, though the wounds remained, crudely sealed by whatever dimensional energy had transported them. He was alive, battered, old, and exhausted, but alive. Kakashi? A few meters away, atop a pile of discarded microwaves, the copy ninja was pushing himself up. He looked terrible. His flak jacket was shredded, his chakra levels were critically low, and he was panting heavily. He immediately pulled his headband down over his left eye to conserve energy. Status, Kakashi rasped, his single dark eye darting around, scanning the perimeter. Hostiles? Jiraiya stood up, wobbling slightly. He looked around at the towering ziggurats of trash. Smells like garbage. Looks like a dump. But... He picked up a plastic bottle, examining the label. The writing was Japanese, but the design was sleek, modern, unrecognizable. This isn't the elemental nations. Look at that skyline. Kakashi followed his gaze. Beyond the beach, the city of Muzurifu loomed. Skyscrapers of glass and steel reflected the setting sun. Cars moved along the highway overpass in the distance, horseless metal carriages moving at incredible speeds. Massive billboards displayed moving images of people in colorful, skin-tight costumes. Genjutsu? Kakashi asked, his hand drifting to the kunai pouch on his leg. I don't think so, Jiraiya muttered, reaching out to tap into the natural energy of the world. It was there, faint, polluted, but present. This was real. We're a long way from home, Kakashi. Boom. Another explosion ripped through the air, coming from the city center, a few blocks inland from the beach. Kakashi's body tensed. The soldier in him overrode the exhaustion. Explosion. Screaming. Sounds like civilians in danger. Jiraiya wiped a trickle of blood from his chin. He should rest. He should analyze. He was a sage, a spy master. But he also remembered the faces of the orphans he had failed. He remembered Minato. He remembered the prophecy. We should check it out, Jiraiya said, his voice gaining a hint of its usual strength. Information gathering. Plus. He grinned, a pained, lopsided expression. A hero arrives late, but in style. Kakashi sighed, his shoulders dropping. You're enjoying this too much. We have no chakra, no intel, and we're heavily injured. Then we'll be careful. Let's go. They moved. Even exhausted, even in a foreign world, they were shinobi. They didn't run, they flickered. Using the Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker, they blurred out of existence, leaving only a swirl of leaves and trash in their wake. Tatooine Station shopping district. The heat was unbearable. Izuku stood at the back of the crowd, his eyes wide, reflecting the inferno before him. The alleyway was a sea of flames. The sludge villain, the same one All Might had bottled, the one Izuku had caused to escape by latching onto the hero's leg, had grown monstrous. It was an undulating mass of sewage-green fluid, dominating the center of the destruction. And trapped within that suffocating liquid was a face Izuku knew better than his own. Kaken, Katsuki Bakugo, usually so arrogant, so powerful, was reduced to a struggling animal. The sludge forced its way into his mouth and nose, suffocating him. Explosions ripped from Bakugo's palms. Wild, panicked blasts that only served to set the surrounding buildings on fire and keep the pro-heroes at bay. Don't come near me! The villain roared, his voice a wet, gurgling sound. Izuku looked at the heroes. Death Arms was holding back the crowd, his face grim. I can't get close. My punches don't work on fluids. Kamui Woods was useless amidst the fire. The heat. My wood will burn. Empty Lady couldn't grow giant in the narrow street without crushing civilians. They were waiting. Waiting for someone with the right quirk. Waiting for someone else to solve the problem. They're just watching, Izuku thought, a cold horror gripping his stomach. Kaken is dying, and they're just watching. He looked at Bakugo. Through the suffocating muck, Bakugo's eyes locked onto Izuku's. They weren't angry. They were pleading. For the first time in their lives, Katsuki Bakugo looked at Izuku Midoriya and screamed for help without making a sound. Thump thump. Izuku's heart hammered against his ribs. The logic in his brain screamed stop. You have no quirk. You are useless. You will die. But the fire in his chest screamed louder. Izuku's feet slammed into the pavement. He broke the police line. Hey! Come back, kid! You'll get yourself killed! Death Arms shouted. Izuku didn't hear him. The world narrowed down to a single point, Bakugo. He sprinted, his breath tearing at his throat. The villain loomed over him, a mountain of malicious fluid. You again? The villain laughed. I'll swallow you whole this time. Izuku's mind went blank. He remembered his notes. Page 25. Weaknesses. He swung his backpack by the strap, putting every ounce of his meager strength into the rotation, and hurled it. The bag flew true, the corner striking the villain directly in his protruding, liquid eye. GAH. The villain flinched, the fluid recoiling. For a split second, Bakugo's mouth was free. He gasped, sucking in greedy lungfuls of air. Kaken! Izuku clawed at the sludge, his fingernails digging into the slime, trying to pull his tormentor free. Why? Bakugo coughed, his voice raw. Why are you here? I don't know. Izuku cried, tears streaming down his soot-stained face. His legs were shaking, his hands were useless, but he couldn't stop. My legs, they just moved on their own. You looked like you were asking for help. The villain recovered. The eye reformed, glowing with malice. You little pest! The sludge rose up like a tidal wave, hardening into a dense, crushing mass. It hovered over Izuku and Bakugo, a hammer of liquid death poised to drop. Die! The villain shrieked. Izuku squeezed his eyes shut. He braced for the impact. He waited for the end. I'm sorry, Mom. The roof overlooking the alley. Jiraiya and Kakashi crouched on the edge of a 4-story office building, looking down into the inferno. Target identified, Kakashi murmured, his eye tracking the villain's movements. Fluid-based body. Physical immunity seems high. Fire creates a hazard but doesn't harm him. He's absorbing the blonde boy's explosive chakra. No, his explosive ability. The green one, Jiraiya pointed. He just ran in. No plan. Just guts. Suicide, Kakashi corrected. He has no energy signature. He's a civilian. They watched the backpack hit the eye. They watched the desperate clawing. He's trying to save his friend, Jiraiya said, a strange softness entering his voice. Even facing a monster like that. Look at his eyes, Kakashi. Kakashi looked. He saw the terror, yes. But beneath the terror, he saw the will of fire. The willingness to stand against impossible odds to protect a comrade. It was the same look Obito had once worn, the same look Naruto wore. The villain is attacking, Kakashi noted, his muscle memory twitching. The heroes down there aren't moving. Then we move, Jiraiya said. Chakra levels? Low. But enough for one strike. I'll take point, Kakashi said. He didn't wait for approval. The villain's strike began to descend. Kakashi Hatake dropped from the roof. The strike. The air pressure changed. Izuku didn't feel the blow land. Instead, he heard a sound like 1,000 birds chirping in unison, a high-pitched, electric screech that pierced the roar of the fire. Chirp 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 zzzzzztt. A figure landed between Izuku and the villain. It happened so fast the human eye could barely track it. Kakashi didn't use the Chidori. It was too penetrating, too likely to kill the hostage along with the villain. Instead, purple lightning crackled around his right hand, erratic and wild. He slammed his palm onto the pavement, channeling the electricity outward in a controlled web. Lightning style, purple electricity. The purple arc surged upward, conducting instantly through the slime villain's liquid body. Gaha! The villain shrieked, not in anger, but in paralysis. The electricity seized his nervous system, scrambling the control over his fluid form. The sludge turned rigid, vibrating violently. The shockwave blew the fire back, creating a circle of clear air. Kakashi stood up from his crouch. He looked alien to the crowd, A man in a flak jacket with a mask covering half his face, his silver hair defying gravity. He moved with a lethality that the pro-heroes lacked. With a precise, surgical movement, Kakashi grabbed Bakugo's collar and yanked. With the villain paralyzed by the electrical current, the sludge offered no resistance. Bakugo flew free, sliding across the pavement. Kakashi then grabbed the back of Izuku's uniform. Move! He tossed Izuku backward toward Death Arms with casual ease, then leaped back himself, landing perched on a lamppost. The villain collapsed into a puddle, foaming and twitching, unconscious. Silence descended on the street. It was absolute. The crowd, the heroes, the police, everyone stared at the silver-haired stranger perched on the lamppost. Kakashi looked down at his hand. It was shaking slightly. Too much chakra, he thought. I'm running on fumes. Who are you? Kamui Woods asked, stepping forward, his wooden arms raised cautiously. Are you a pro? I don't recognize you. Kakashi didn't answer. He looked up to the roof where Jiraiya was waiting in the shadows. A signal passed between them. Disengage. Just a passing scarecrow, Kakashi muttered. And then, in a puff of smoke, he was gone. The aftermath, the chaos that followed was predictable. The police rushed in to secure the sludge villain, scooping the unconscious slime into separate containment barrels. The paramedics swarmed Bakugo, and the heroes swarmed Izuku, but not to praise him. Are you insane? Death Arms yelled, leaning over Izuku, his massive arms crossed. You could have gotten yourself killed. You interfered with a hostage situation. You're quirkless, aren't you? Another hero chimed in. That was reckless. You made it harder for us to work. Izuku sat on the pavement, shrinking in on himself. He nodded, accepting the verbal beating. They're right, he thought. I didn't do anything. That man, that lightning man, he saved everyone. I just got in the way. Meanwhile, a few meters away, the heroes were fawning over Bakugo. That quirk is amazing, kid. You held out for so long. You're a natural-born hero. Bakugo didn't look happy. He sat wrapped in a shock blanket, glaring at the ground. But his eyes kept darting to Izuku, and then to the lamppost where the silver-haired man had been. High above, hidden by a genjutsu of deflection that Jiraiya had cobbled together, the two shinobi watched. Society here is strange, Jiraiya observed, leaning against an AC unit. They scold the one who showed courage and praise the one who got captured because of his power. They value the quirk, the ability, over the mindset, Kakashi analyzed. They treat heroism like a celebrity career. It's distasteful. That boy, Jiraiya pointed at Izuku. He has no power. I checked with my sensory abilities when you grabbed him. His chakra network is dormant, severely atrophied. No quirk factor either. But he moved, Kakashi said quietly. When the professionals froze, he moved. Jiraiya hummed. A diamond in the rough? Or just a fool? Maybe both, Kakashi said. Like someone else we know. Jiraiya chuckled, a wheezing sound. Naruto had the fox. This kid has nothing. But I haven't seen that kind of self-sacrifice in a long time. Not without orders. They watched as Izuku was finally released. He stood up, bowed continuously in apology to the heroes who were still berating him, and began to walk away. He looked smaller than ever. What's the plan, Jiraiya-sama? Kakashi asked. We need intel. Money. A place to stay. Food. We need a guide, Jiraiya said. He pushed himself off the AC unit. And I think that green bean owes us a favor. The walk home, the sun had set. The streetlights flickered on, casting long, lonely shadows. Izuku walked home, his body exhausted, his mind numb. The adrenaline had crashed, leaving him hollow. All Might hadn't shown up. The pro-heroes had failed. A mysterious vigilante had saved the day, and Izuku had been yelled at for trying to help. Maybe they're right, he thought. Maybe I should just give up. Take a swan dive off the roof. No, I can't think like that. Mom would cry. He stopped. He was passing a small neighborhood park. The swing set creaked in the wind. Yo! Izuku jumped, nearly dropping his backpack. Sitting on top of the slide, looking entirely out of place, was the silver-haired man. He was reading a small orange book, Standing next to the slide was a massive man with long white spiky hair, wearing strange red and green armor and wooden sandals. They looked like cosplayers. Really intense cosplayers. Izuku stammered. Hello? You're the kid from the sludge incident, the white-haired man said. He hopped down. He was huge, tall and broad. He moved with a heavy grace. The reckless one. Izuku flinched. I'm sorry. I know I got in the way. The heroes already scolded me. The heroes are idiots, the silver-haired man said without looking up from his book. He turned a page. You were the only one who did anything useful until I stepped in. Izuku blinked. Your backpack, the man said. You aimed for the eyes. It caused the target to recoil, creating an opening for the hostage to breathe. Tactical. Crude, but effective. Izuku felt a lump form in his throat. Someone praised him? Who are you? Izuku asked. Are you pro-heroes? I've never seen you before. Your quirk, the lightning. We aren't heroes, the big man said. He stepped closer, towering over Izuku. He leaned down, grinning. I am the Toad Mountain Sage. The gallant Jiraiya. He struck a pose, waving his hand theatrically. Izuku stared blankly. And this gloom cloud is Kakashi. Jiraiya thumbed at the man on the slide. Ninja, Kakashi corrected. Ninja? Izuku repeated. Like, the old assassins from history? Something like that, Jiraiya said. He dropped the theatrics and looked at Izuku seriously. Kid, we're in a bit of a bind. We're not from around here. We have no money, no identification cards, and we're hungry. Izuku took a step back. Are you mugging me? If we were mugging you, you'd be unconscious already, Kakashi said, finally closing his book. He hopped off the slide. He walked over to Izuku, his single visible eye boring into the boy. We saw what you did today. You have guts. But you have no power. Izuku looked down at his red shoes. I know. I'm quirkless. Quirkless, Kakashi tasted the word. Is that what they call it here? Being powerless? It means I'm useless, Izuku whispered. Useless? Jiraiya laughed. It was a loud, booming sound. Boy, I've seen powerful men run like cowards, and I've seen useless men change the world. Power isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. Stone by stone. Blood by blood. Izuku looked up. But without a quirk. We don't have quirks, Kakashi lied smoothly. We use chakra. Spiritual and physical energy needed together. Anyone can use it, if they have the will to train until their bones break. Izuku's heart skipped a beat. Anyone? We need a guide, Jiraiya said. Someone to explain this world to us. Someone to help us get on our feet. In exchange, Jiraiya leaned in close. How would you like to learn how to be strong without needing a fancy genetic mutation? How would you like to learn the way of the shinobi? Izuku looked at them. They were strange. They were dangerous. They were homeless, likely crazy, but they were offering him a ladder when everyone else had kicked him into a pit. Can I? Izuku's voice trembled. He clenched his fists. Can I really be a hero? Like you? Kakashi looked at Jiraiya. Then he looked at Izuku. He pulled his mask up slightly to hide a small smile. Hero is a strong word, Kakashi said. But we can make you a survivor. We can make you a fighter. The rest is up to you. The wind blew through the park, carrying the scent of rain and ozone. Izuku Midoriya wiped his eyes. He looked at the scarecrow and the toad. I'll do it, he said. Please, teach me. Jiraiya grinned. Good answer. Now, first lesson. Do you have enough money to buy us ramen? I'm starving. Later that night, the Midoriya apartment. Inko Midoriya was a saint. That was the immediate conclusion Jiraiya came to. When her son had dragged two strange, battle-scarred men into her home, bleeding and smelling of trash, she hadn't called the police. She had panicked, yes. She had fainted once. But after Izuku explained, a heavily edited version involving them being foreign travelers who had been robbed, she had gone into mother mode. Now, Jiraiya and Kakashi were sitting at the small dining table. Their armor was piled in the corner. They were wearing spare tracksuits that had belonged to Izuku's absent father. Inko placed a massive pot of katsudon on the table. Thank you so much for helping my Izuku, Inko said, bowing deeply, tears in her eyes. He told me you saved him from the villain. It was nothing, ma'am, Kakashi said politely, his mask still on. He ate by turning his back faster than the eye could see. This is delicious, Jiraiya bellowed, inhaling the food. Izuku sat opposite them, watching them eat. He had his notebook out. So, chakra. How does it work? Is it like chi? Is it related to stamina? Eat first. Questions later, Kakashi said. We have a lot of work to do, Jiraiya said between bites. Tomorrow, we go back to that beach. It's a dump. Perfect for training. Training? Inko asked, worried. Physical conditioning, Jiraiya assured her. The boy is frail. If he wants to grow up strong, he needs muscle. Inko looked at Izuku. She saw a light in his eyes she hadn't seen in 10 years. The despair from the doctor's office was gone, replaced by a burning curiosity and determination. Okay, Inko smiled softly. Just please be careful. We will guard him with our lives, Kakashi said. And for some reason, Inko believed him. The rooftop, midnight. Jiraiya and Kakashi stepped out onto the balcony of the apartment complex while the Midoriya slept. The city lights of Muzurafik glittered around them. So, Kakashi leaned on the railing. We're really doing this? Training a kid in a dimension that isn't ours? We're stuck here for now, Jiraiya said, looking at the moon. It was the same moon. That was comforting. My space-time ninjutsu isn't good enough to get us back, and you're out of juice. Until we figure out a way home, we need to blend in. Having a local disciple helps. He's soft, Kakashi said. He's kind, Jiraiya corrected. Kindness is rare. The elemental nations, we lost a lot of kindness there, Kakashi. Kakashi touched his left eye, thinking of Rin. Of Obito. Yeah. We did. Besides, Jiraiya grinned. Did you see his notes? He analyzed that villain in seconds. He analyzed us in minutes. The kid has a brain. If we give him the body to match, he could be dangerous, Kakashi finished. He could be a Hokage, Jiraiya whispered. Kakashi looked down at the street. 3 years. The high school entrance exams are in 10 months, according to him. Too soon, Jiraiya shook his head. We can't forge a sword in 10 months. We need to break him down and build him back up. We'll tell him to skip the next cycle. Wait for the one after. 3 years, Kakashi agreed. I'll teach him taijutsu and weapons. I'll teach him fuinjutsu and information gathering, Jiraiya said. And maybe, if his body can handle it. Senjutsu. You're crazy. I'm a sage. They stood in silence for a moment. Do you think they made it? Jiraiya asked suddenly. Naruto. Tsunade. The war. Naruto is the most unpredictable ninja in history, Kakashi said, a genuine smile touching his eyes. He'll win. He has to. Then we have to make sure we don't embarrass him by dying in this world, Jiraiya said. He looked back at the apartment door. Get ready, Izuku Midoriya. Your hell begins tomorrow. The morning sun filtered through the cheap beige curtains of the Midoriya apartment, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. For a moment, Izuku Midoriya lay in his bed, staring at the All Might poster on his ceiling. The events of the previous day felt like a fever dream. The sludge villain. The fire. The terrifying silver-haired man who commanded lightning. It was a dream, Izuku told himself, a heavy blanket of disappointment settling over his chest. Just a coping mechanism for being rejected by All Might. He rolled over to grab his alarm clock and froze. Sitting on his windowsill, crouched like a gargoyle, was Kakashi Hatake. The ninja was reading a small orange book, his single visible eye curving into a crescent of amusement. Yo, Kakashi said, not looking up. Izuku shrieked, fell out of bed, and tangled himself in his sheets. You're real! Loud came a grumble from the floor. Izuku peered over the edge of his mattress. A massive lump under a blanket on the floor shifted. A spiky white head poked out. Jiraiya scratched his chin, yawning wide enough to crack his jaw. 5 more minutes, brat. Sage mode requires beauty sleep. You stayed? Izuku whispered, his heart hammering. We made a deal, Kakashi said, flipping a page. We teach you to survive. You help us navigate this strange, chakraless world. Ninja do not break their word. He paused, his eye narrowing slightly. Usually, from the kitchen, the smell of miso soup and grilled fish wafted in, accompanied by the humming of Inko Midoriya. Mom? Izuku scrambled up, pulling on a t-shirt. She's a lovely woman, Jiraiya noted, sitting up and stretching. His joints popped like gunshots. Made us tea at 5 a.m. Very hospitable. Reminds me of the folks back in the Fire Country before the wars. Izuku rushed to the kitchen to find his mother plating breakfast. She looked tired, likely hadn't slept much, but she smiled when she saw him. Good morning, Izuku, she said, though her eyes darted nervously to the two men entering behind him. Our guests are very hungry. Thanks for the food, Jiraiya bellowed, taking a seat at the small dining table which groaned under his weight. As they ate, the reality of the situation began to set in. Izuku watched Kakashi eat. It was a terrifying display of speed. One moment the mask was up, the next the bowl was empty, and the mask was back in place. Izuku hadn't even seen his mouth move. So, Kakashi said, placing his chopsticks down. Phase 1, Intelligence Gathering. We know nothing of this world's power structure, geography, or threats. Izuku, you mentioned something called the Internet? Why yes, Izuku nodded. It's the global network of information. Jiraiya's eyes lit up. Global network? You mean I can access information from the other side of the world instantly? Spying must be obsolete here. Not exactly, Izuku said. I can take you to the library. They have public computers. Excellent, Jiraiya stood up, looking regal. To the library. The Toad Sage seeks knowledge. Musudafa Public Library. The culture shock hit them like a physical blow. For Kakashi, it was the sheer volume of people and the lack of tension. In the elemental nations, even civilians walked with a certain wariness. Here, people walked with their heads down, staring at glowing rectangles in their hands, completely oblivious to their surroundings. He counted 14 distinct openings on a man walking past him within 10 seconds. If this were a war zone, they'd all be dead, Kakashi thought. Peace has made them soft. Inside the library, Izuku set them up at a computer terminal. He showed them how to use the mouse and keyboard. It's a typewriter connected to a crystal ball, Jiraiya summarized. Basically, Izuku said. Jiraiya took the first shift. Show me the geography. Izuku pulled up Google Earth. Jiraiya spent 20 minutes zooming in and out, marveling at the satellite imagery. No hidden villages. The borders are static. And these continents, completely different. Then, Jiraiya discovered the search bar. Izuku, my boy, Jiraiya said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Does this internet have literature? Literature? Romance novels? Art? Studies of the female form? Izuku turned bright red. I think you should look that up yourself. 5 minutes later, Jiraiya was giggling uncontrollably, scrolling through image boards with a speed that blurred his hands. It's a paradise. A gold mine. Aika Paradise will have a sequel, and it will be set in Mizudafu. Kakashi, meanwhile, had taken over the second terminal. He wasn't looking at art. He was reading history, the advent of quirks, the glowing baby, the chaos, the rise of the hero system. It's a mercenary system, Kakashi muttered, his eyes scanning the Hero Public Safety Commission's website. State-sanctioned vigilantes paid by popularity and apprehending targets. No assassination corps, no dark ops. It's all public relations. He clicked on a video of All Might. The man was laughing while holding a bus from falling off a bridge. This man, Kakashi pointed. He is the Hokage equivalent? That's All Might, Izuku said, reverence in his voice. He's the #1 hero. The symbol of peace. Peace built on the shoulders of one man, Kakashi analyzed coldly. Dangerous. If the pillar breaks, the roof collapses. Izuku flinched. All Might won't break. Everyone breaks, kid, Kakashi said, turning to look at him. The question is what happens to the village when he does. Kakashi continued his research. He looked up the laws regarding vigilantism. Strict. Illegal use of quirks was a felony. We are criminals just by existing here, Kakashi noted. If we use chakra, they will classify it as a quirk. Since we don't have licenses, we are villains. We need money, Jiraiya said, finally tearing his eyes away from a swimsuit model for him. I can't write on an empty stomach, and we can't mooch off your mother forever, kid. How do we get money? Izuku asked. Bounties, Jiraiya said. You have those, right? Villains with bounties on their heads? Yes, but then it's settled. We hunt at night. We train during the day, Jiraiya declared. But first, we need to see what we're working with. Kid, take us to your training ground. Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. The stench was worse in the daylight. Mountains of tires, rusted appliances, driftwood, and plastic waste stretched for as far as the eye could see. Jiraiya stood atop a pile of crushed cars, looking out at the ocean. A mess. This world produces so much waste. It's the perfect place, Kakashi said, kicking a rusted kettle. Unstable terrain. Heavy objects. Secluded. Nobody comes here. All right, shirt off, kid, Jiraiya ordered. Izuku blinked. Huh, strip. We need to check your seal. Izuku hesitantly removed his shirt. He was scrawny. You could count his ribs. His arms were thin, lacking any definition. Jiraiya walked around him, poking him in various spots, the solar plexus, the spine, the stomach. He placed a hand on Izuku's abdomen and closed his eyes. A faint blue glow surrounded Jiraiya's hand. Izuku felt a warmth spread through his belly. What is that? I'm sending a pulse of my chakra into your system to map your coils, Jiraiya explained. He frowned. What is it? Kakashi asked. It's strange, Jiraiya opened his eyes. The pathway system is there. The Tenketsu points are there. But they are withered. Atrophied like a muscle that's never been used. Is that bad? Izuku asked, panic rising. It means you are technically capable of using chakra, Jiraiya said. Unlike the people here who use quirks, which appear to be genetic mutations concentrated in specific organs, chakra is a blend of physical and spiritual energy. Every living human should have it. But in this dimension, humans seem to have evolved to bypass it in favor of quirks. So I can use it? Izuku asked, hope blooming in his chest. You have the plumbing, Jiraiya said. But the pipes are rusted shut and the water pressure is 0. Kakashi stepped forward. In the elemental nations, children start training their coils as soon as they can walk. By age 12, they are soldiers. You are 14. You are starting a race a decade late. I can work hard. Izuku insisted. The UA entrance exam is in 10 months. I'll do whatever it takes. Kakashi and Jiraiya exchanged a look. 10 months? Kakashi scoffed. Impossible. Izuku felt like he'd been slapped. But, if we force your coils open and pump chakra through them in 10 months, you will burn out, Jiraiya said seriously. Your body isn't ready. You have no muscle mass to handle the physical strain of taijutsu, and your mind isn't hardened for the mental strain of genjutsu or strategy. If you try to become a shinobi in 10 months, Kakashi said, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper, you will die on your first mission. And we will not waste our time training a corpse. Izuku looked down at the sand. The hope was fracturing again. Then, what do I do? UA is the only way to become a hero, is it? Jiraiya asked. Or is it just the popular way? Izuku looked up. Listen, kid, Jiraiya put a heavy hand on Izuku's shoulder. Greatness isn't a schedule. You want to be a hero? Fine. But if you rush, you'll be a tragedy. We are offering to train you. But on our timeline. 3 years, Kakashi stated. 3 years? Izuku gasped. But I'll be 17. Everyone else in my grade will be second years in high school. Let them go, Kakashi dismissed. Let them rush ahead. Let them rely on their crutches, their quirks. While they play hero in a classroom, you will be in the mud, in the blood, forging yourself into something they can't even comprehend. Skip the next exam, Jiraiya said. Wait for the one after. Or transfer in later. It doesn't matter. The goal isn't high school student. The goal is warrior. Izuku looked at the trash. He thought about Bakugo. He thought about All Might saying no. If he followed the standard path, he would fail. He knew that now. These men, they were talking about something different. Not becoming a celebrity, but becoming a weapon for good. 3 years, Izuku repeated. He clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white. If I give you 3 years, can I stand next to All Might? Jiraiya grinned, showing his teeth. Give us 3 years, kid, and All Might will be asking to stand next to you. I'll do it. Good, Kakashi said. He reached into his pouch and pulled out a small silver bell attached to a red string. He jingled it. Then your hell begins now. Year 1, Month 1, the cleanup. It wasn't training. It was slavery. Izuku had thought cleaning the beach meant picking up trash. He was wrong. Lift with your legs, not your back. Jiraiya shouted from his lawn chair, where he was currently writing in a notebook titled Ika Ika Violence. Izuku was currently trying to drag a massive truck tire through the sand. A rope was tied around his waist, dragging the tire behind him. But that wasn't all. Kakashi had placed a seal on the tire that increased its weight. This is impossible. Izuku wheezed, his face buried in the sand. Chakra is stamina, Kakashi lectured, walking beside him. He was reading his book, paying Izuku almost no attention. You have no chakra. So we build stamina. Physical exhaustion forces the body to tap into reserves it doesn't know it has. Keep moving. I can't. Thwack. A small pebble hit Izuku in the back of the head. It stung like a hornet. Did I say stop? Kakashi asked pleasantly. Izuku groaned and pulled. Every day was the same. Wake up at 4:30 a.m. Run 10 kilometers. Eat a protein-heavy breakfast prepared by Inko, who was worried but supportive, seeing Izuku's appetite increase. Go to school, where he slept through classes because he was exhausted. Go to the beach. Move heavy objects until sunset. Jiraiya focused on balance. Stand on this log, Jiraiya commanded. The log was floating in the surf. It's slippery! Izuku cried, flailing. Fall in, and you swim laps, Jiraiya said. Izuku fell in. He swam laps. Kakashi focused on stealth and perception. While Izuku was cleaning, Kakashi would hide in the piles of trash. If Izuku didn't spot him before Kakashi tapped him on the shoulder, Izuku had to do 50 push-ups. Izuku did a lot of push-ups. But slowly, painfully, things began to change. By the end of the first month, the vomit session stopped. By the second month, Izuku could drag the tire without collapsing. By the third month, he noticed something strange. He was walking home, and he heard a cat sneeze 2 blocks away. He turned his head and saw a flower pot falling from a balcony before it hit the ground, stepping out of the way instinctively. His awareness is expanding, Kakashi noted one evening, watching Izuku from the rooftop. His coils are loosening too, Jiraiya added. He's not producing chakra yet, but the gates are creaking open. He's ready for the bell test. He's going to fail, Kakashi said. Of course he is, Jiraiya laughed. That's the point. The bell test. It was a Saturday morning. The beach was foggy. Izuku stood in the center of a cleared circle of sand. He wore a green tracksuit. His hands were taped up. He felt stronger than he ever had in his life. But looking at the 2 men standing opposite him, he felt like an ant facing a hurricane. Kakashi stepped forward. He held up 2 bells. The objective is simple, Kakashi said. Take these bells from me before noon. But there are 2 of you, Izuku said. And only 2 bells. Correction, Jiraiya sat down on a washing machine, popping open a can of soda. I'm just observing today. Spectator. Referee. Unless you make me bored, then I might jump in. Your opponent is Kakashi. Izuku swallowed. One-on-one with the lightning man. If you don't get a bell, Kakashi said, his voice devoid of emotion, you go without lunch. And I tie you to one of these piling posts while I eat in front of you. Is that all? Izuku asked. Skipping lunch? And Kakashi's eye narrowed. If you fail, the training ends. We go back to being wanderers. You go back to being a civilian. You give up on UA. You give up on being a hero. The air grew heavy. You can't be serious, Izuku whispered. Ninja do not joke about missions, Kakashi said. He reached into his pouch and pulled out a timer. He set it down on a rock. Tick. 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 Come at me with the intent to kill, Kakashi said. If you don't, you'll never get them. Start. Izuku didn't charge. He knew better. He had seen Kakashi move. Instead, Izuku reached into his pocket and threw a handful of sand. Distraction, Kakashi noted boredly. He sidestepped the sand cloud, but Izuku wasn't behind the sand. He had dropped low, scrambling on all fours like a lizard, aiming for Kakashi's legs. He had a length of wire he'd scavenged from a toaster in his hand. Wrap the legs. Immobilize. Kakashi didn't even look down. He lifted his foot and stepped on Izuku's hand, pinning it to the sand. Gah! Izuku cried out. Predictable, Kakashi said. He flicked his finger against Izuku's forehead. The force sent Izuku tumbling backward, rolling over sharp seashells. Izuku scrambled up. I'm not done! He ran into the maze of trash piles. Stealth. Use the environment. Kakashi stood in the open, pulling out his orange book. Hiding. Basic strategy. Not bad. Izuku controlled his breathing. He was behind a rusted refrigerator. He watched Kakashi through a hole in the metal. He's distracted. Reading. Now is my chance. Izuku climbed the trash pile silently. He picked up a heavy iron pipe. He positioned himself directly above Kakashi, intent to kill. He jumped. He swung the pipe down with all his might. Clang! The pipe hit a log. Body replacement technique, Kakashi's voice whispered in Izuku's ear. Izuku froze. A kunai blunt edge was pressed against his throat. You died, Kakashi said. Izuku dropped the pipe. How? You hesitate, Kakashi said. You announce your presence with your killing intent a split second before you jumped. And you're too loud. Kakashi kicked Izuku in the back, sending him flying into the sand. Again. The next 3 hours were a brutal beatdown. Izuku tried traps. He rigged a net of fishing wire. Kakashi cut it. Izuku tried throwing scrap metal. Kakashi caught it. Izuku tried a frontal assault, screaming. Kakashi tripped him. By 11:45, Izuku was bruised, bleeding from a cut on his cheek, and gasping for air. His clothes were torn. He couldn't feel his legs. Kakashi stood there, immaculate. Not a speck of dust on him. The bells jingled softly at his hip. 15 minutes left, Kakashi said. You're pathetic. Izuku ground his teeth. I'm not. You are, Kakashi said coldly. You're a quirkless boy playing soldier. You think moving trash makes you a warrior? You have no talent. Izuku looked at Jiraiya. The sage was watching with a blank expression. He wasn't helping. He wasn't smiling. Why are you even trying? Kakashi asked, walking closer. Bakugo was right. You're a pebble. Something snapped in Izuku. I am not. Izuku reached into his pocket. He pulled out a lighter he had found. He lit a rag hanging from a pile of old newspapers and oily machinery next to Kakashi. Whoosh! The fire flared up instantly, creating a wall of heat and black smoke. Fire style. Trash burning. Izuku screamed. It wasn't a jutsu, just desperation. He dove through the fire. Kakashi's eye widened slightly. He's using the hazard to mask his approach? Risky. Izuku tackled Kakashi. Or rather, he tackled the space Kakashi occupied. Kakashi moved to dodge, but Izuku had anticipated the dodge. Izuku didn't aim for Kakashi, he aimed for the bells. His fingers brushed the cold metal. Gotcha! Kakashi's hand clamped around Izuku's wrist like a vice. Too slow. Whirring. The alarm clock went off. Izuku hung there, suspended in Kakashi's grip, his fingers millimeters from the bells. The fire crackled beside them. Time's up, Kakashi said. He dropped Izuku. Izuku hit the sand and didn't get up. He stared at the sky. He had failed. After all the cleaning, all the running, all the hope. He had failed. The verdict. 10 minutes later, Izuku was tied to a wooden post stuck in the sand. Jiraiya and Kakashi sat in front of him, eating bento boxes filled with delicious-smelling pork and rice. So, Kakashi mumbled through a mouthful of rice. You failed to get the bells. Izuku hung his head. Yes, you fell for obvious traps. Your taijutsu is sloppy. And you lost your cool at the end. Yes, but Jiraiya spoke up, waving a chopstick. That fire trick was interesting. Suicidal, but interesting. You failed, Kakashi repeated. The deal was, if you fail, we leave. Izuku felt tears pricking his eyes. He fought them back. He wouldn't cry. Not now, however, Kakashi said. I'm willing to give you one last chance. Izuku looked up. Really? We have to go run an errand. Kakashi stood up. We'll be back in an hour. If you're still here, and you haven't tried to escape, maybe we'll reconsider. Kakashi turned to Jiraiya. Let's go. Jiraiya stood up, leaving his bento box, half full, on the washing machine right next to Izuku. Oh, and Izuku, Kakashi said, turning back, his eye glowing with intimidation. That food is for Jiraiya. If you eat it, if you take even one bite, you are disqualified instantly. Do you understand? Yes, Izuku whispered. I won't eat it. Good. The two ninja vanished. Izuku was left alone. The sun was high now. He was thirsty. He was starving. The smell of the pork was intoxicating. I won't eat it, Izuku told himself. It's a test of will. I have to prove I can follow orders. Time passed. His stomach growled. He felt dizzy. Just one bite? No. They'd know. They're ninja. Suddenly, the bushes rustled. Izuku stiffened. Kakashi-sensei? But it wasn't Kakashi. A small, scruffy dog limped out of the trash. It looked starving. Ribs showing, fur matted. It sniffed the air, smelling the bento box. It looked at Izuku, then at the food, and whined. Izuku looked at the dog. He looked at the food. If I eat it, I fail. But what if I give it away? The dog tried to jump up to the washing machine but was too weak. It fell back, whimpering. Izuku's heart broke. He knew that feeling. Weakness. Hunger. Being unable to reach what you need. I can't let it starve. Hey, Izuku whispered. He struggled against the ropes. They were tight, but Kakashi had left a little slack in the wrists. Izuku wiggled his fingers. He stretched. He strained his shoulder until it popped painfully. He managed to knock the bento box off the machine. It fell onto the sand. The lid popped open. Eat, Izuku whispered to the dog. The dog didn't hesitate. It devoured the pork. Izuku smiled, despite his hunger. Well, I didn't eat it. I followed the rules. Sort of. Suddenly, a shadow fell over him. You! Kakashi and Jiraiya appeared out of nowhere in a swirl of leaves. The dog yelped and ran away. Kakashi loomed over Izuku, fury radiating from him. The sky seemed to darken. I told you not to touch the food. Kakashi roared. I didn't eat it. Izuku shouted back, squeezing his eyes shut. I gave it to the dog. You disobeyed a direct order to leave the resources alone. Kakashi leaned in, his face inches from Izuku's. Why? Why did you waste valuable rations on a stray animal? In the field, that food could have been the difference between life and death for your team. Because he was hungry. Izuku yelled, finding his voice. He was weak. He couldn't help himself. If I have to watch someone suffer just to follow the rules, if I have to let someone die just to pass a test, then I don't want to be a ninja. Silence. The wind blew through the trash. Izuku panted, waiting for the blow. Waiting to be fired. Kakashi stared at him. Then, the scary aura vanished. Kakashi's eye curved into a smile. Pass. Izuku blinked. Huh, you pass, Jiraiya said, grinning broadly. But I broke the rules, Izuku stammered. Kakashi cut the ropes with a quick swipe of a kunai. Izuku fell to his knees. In the ninja world, those who break the rules are scum. That's true, Kakashi quoted, looking up at the sky. But those who abandon their friends, or those in need, are worse than scum. Kakashi looked down at Izuku. You didn't eat the food yourself. You sacrificed your chance at sustenance to help a weaker creature. That is the first step of the will of fire, self-sacrifice, Jiraiya nodded. A hero, a true shinobi, protects those who can't protect themselves. Even if it means breaking protocol. Izuku looked between them, tears finally spilling over. So, I can stay? You'll still train me? We're just getting started, Kakashi said. He ruffled Izuku's messy green hair. Go home and rest, Izuku. Tomorrow, we start walking on water. Water? Izuku sniffled. Chakra control, Jiraiya said. You passed the character test. Now, we have to see if we can actually get those rusted pipes of yours to carry some water. As Izuku walked home that evening, bruised, hungry, but happier than he had ever been, he didn't notice the small dog watching him from a pile of tires. Poof! The dog vanished in a puff of smoke. It was a summon. He's got a good heart, Packin, the pug summon, said, sitting on Kakashi's shoulder back at the beach. Soft but good. He reminds me of Obito, Kakashi said quietly. And Naruto. A dangerous combination, Jiraiya noted. He'll be a handful. Good, Kakashi said. I hate boring students. The ocean at Dagoba Municipal Beach Park was not kind. It was a turbulent, churning beast, fueled by the currents of the Pacific and polluted by decades of neglect. The waves didn't just crash. They slammed against the shore with the heavy, rhythmic thud of a heartbeat. Izuku Midoriya stood at the water's edge, his toes digging into the wet sand. The sun was rising, painting the horizon in hues of bruised purple and bleeding orange. Again came the voice from behind him. Izuku took a breath. It was a different breath than the ones he used to take a year ago. Back then, his breath had been shallow, anxious, perpetually caught in his throat. Now it was deep, controlled, filling his diaphragm and expanding his ribs. He visualized the energy in his stomach, the small, flickering flame of chakra that Jiraiya and Kakashi had spent the last 4 months helping him cultivate. He stepped onto the water. For a microsecond, the surface tension held. He felt the resistance against his soul, a solid platform made of fluid dynamics and spiritual energy. Then, a wave crested, the surface shifted, his concentration wavered, and, splash, Izuku plunged headfirst into the freezing salt water. From the top of a pile of rusted shipping containers, a silver-haired man turned a page of his book. That's attempt number 412. Sitting next to him, a large man with a white mane of hair sighed, scratching his stomach. He's overthinking it. He treats the ocean like a math problem. You can't solve the ocean, Kakashi. You have to feel it. He's a native of this scientific world, Jiraiya-sama, Kakashi noted without looking up. He needs to understand the why before he can master the how. Izuku surfaced, sputtering and coughing up brine. He dragged himself back to the shore, shivering. His green tracksuit was soaked, clinging to his developing muscles. He didn't look defeated, though. He looked annoyed. He pulled a waterproof notebook out of a sealed pouch at his waist and scribbled something down. Too much output on the heel, Izuku muttered to himself, his voice steady. The surface area changes with the wave crest. I need to oscillate the flow, not keep it static. He's muttering again, Kakashi noted. At least he's not crying, Jiraiya grinned. Progress. 3 months prior. The awakening of the coils. The transition from physical conditioning to chakra training had been less of a graduation and more of a collision. Izuku remembered the day clearly. The beach had been half cleared. The mountains of trash were now hills. His body had changed. The baby fat was gone, replaced by lean, whipcord muscle. He wasn't bulky like All Might, but he was dense. Kakashi had called him to the center of the cleared area. Today, you stop being a janitor and start being a student, Kakashi had said. Then, Kakashi had done something that shattered Izuku's worldview. He had formed a cross seal with his fingers. Poof! There were suddenly 5 Kakashis. Izuku had dropped the refrigerator door he was carrying. E-emitter type? Cloning? Is that your quirk? Not a quirk, the real Kakashi said, or was it a clone? Ninjutsu. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Shadow clones. They are solid copies, capable of combat and information gathering. Whatever they learn, I learn when they dispel. Izuku's eyes had sparkled with a hunger so intense it was almost frightening. Can I do that? No, Kakashi said flatly. Izuku deflated. Oh, not yet, and likely not ever on this scale, Kakashi explained, dispelling the clones in a burst of smoke. My student back home, he could make thousands. He had an ocean of chakra. You, Izuku, have a puddle. A puddle? A very deep puddle, Jiraiya interjected, walking up. Your coils were dormant. We've woken them up, but your capacity is average. If you made a shadow clone right now, you would die from exhaustion, literally. Izuku swallowed hard. So, no clones? We focus on efficiency, Kakashi said. Control. Precision. If Naruto was a sledgehammer, you must be a scalpel. You cannot afford to waste a single drop of energy. That is why we start with the trees. That afternoon, they had marched to a small wooded area near the park. Walk up the tree, Kakashi ordered. Without your hands, he demonstrated, strolling up the vertical bark as if gravity were merely a suggestion. He hung upside down from a branch. Focus chakra to the soles of your feet. Too little, and you slide off. Too much, and the bark explodes, and you fly off. It sounded simple. It was hell. For 3 weeks, Izuku ran at trees. For 3 weeks he fell. He bruised his back, scraped his knees, and sustained a mild concussion, but he applied his mind. He stopped blindly running and started analyzing. He marked the trees with a kunai to track his height. He adjusted his approach. He meditated to feel the energy, and then, one Tuesday evening, under the light of the moon, it happened. He ran. He hit the bark. He felt the stickiness. He kept running. 5 meters. 10 meters. 15. He reached the highest branch. He stood there, panting, looking out over the city lights of Muzurifu. From up here, the world looked small. The people were dots. The problems were distant. He felt a presence beside him. Kakashi was crouched on the branch, silent as a shadow. The view is different from up here, isn't it? Kakashi asked. Yeah, Izuku breathed. It's clear. This is the shinobi perspective, Kakashi said quietly. We operate above the normal line of sight. We see the threats before they arrive. We see the rot before it spreads. He looked at Izuku. Good work. It was the first time Kakashi had given him unqualified praise. Izuku held on to that moment as he climbed down. Present day, the strong fist. Back on the beach, the sun was fully up. The walking on water training was paused for the midday session, taijutsu. This was Kakashi's domain. Jiraiya was a brawler, a powerhouse of sage arts and hair needles. But Kakashi was a master of the basics, refined to a lethal point. Hero styles are theatrical, Kakashi lectured as he wrapped his hands. All Might announces his punches. Detroit smash. Carolina smash. He winds up. He telegraphs. He relies on overwhelming power and durability to tank hits. Kakashi threw a kunai into the sand at Izuku's feet. You don't have durability, Kakashi said. If a villain with a strength enhancer hits you, you break. If a villain with a fire quirk burns you, you scar. You cannot trade blows. Izuku nodded, shifting into the stance Kakashi had taught him. Feet shoulder-width apart, knees bent, hands raised but loose. The Goken, strong fist. So what do we do? Kakashi asked, circling him. We don't get hit, Izuku recited. We end the fight before they realize it started. Show me. Kakashi vanished. It wasn't teleportation, but shunshin, body flicker. Pure speed powered by chakra. Izuku didn't try to track him with his eyes. He listened. He felt the displacement of air. Left. Izuku ducked. A silver blur passed where his head had been. Izuku pivoted, driving his elbow backward. It hit Kakashi's forearm with a solid thwack. Good reaction, Kakashi said, grabbing Izuku's wrist and twisting. Izuku flowed with the momentum, flipping his body to avoid the break, and lashed out with a kick. Kakashi blocked it with his shin. They separated. You're still thinking too much, Kakashi critiqued. You're analyzing my move after I make it. You need to read the intent before the muscle twitches. It's hard, Izuku panted, wiping sweat from his brow. Your intent is masked? I can't feel any malice. Because I'm not trying to kill you, Kakashi said. His eye crinkled. Yet. Let me try, Jiraiya stepped in. The boy needs to learn to deal with weight classes outside his own. Jiraiya didn't use speed. He used mass. He charged like a rhino. Izuku panicked for a split second, then remembered the lesson. Don't block. Deflect. As Jiraiya threw a punch the size of a ham, Izuku stepped inside the guard. He placed his hands on Jiraiya's forearm and pushed up and out, using his chakra to enhance the shove. Jiraiya's punch went wide. Izuku was now inside his personal space. Strike the solar plexus. Izuku drove his fist into Jiraiya's gut. It felt like punching a wall of rubber and steel. Is that a mosquito? Jiraiya laughed. He flicked Izuku on the forehead, sending the boy tumbling backward into a pile of tires. Power is still an issue, Jiraiya noted, rubbing his stomach. But the placement was perfect. If he had a kunai, I'd be bleeding, Izuku groaned, pulling himself out of the tires. Next time, I'll use a rock. That's the spirit! Jiraiya boomed. The classroom, the silence of the lamb. School had become a strange experience for Izuku. For years, Aldera Junior High had been a torture chamber. The whispers, the laughter, the Deku scribbled on his desk. He had spent his days hunched over, trying to make himself invisible. But something had changed. It wasn't that the bullying stopped. It was that Izuku stopped receiving it. He sat in class, staring out the window, spinning a pen through his fingers with dexterity that mesmerized the girl sitting next to him. He was tired from the morning training, his muscles aching with a dull, satisfying burn. Midoriya! The teacher barked. Pay attention. Since you're dead set on UA, you'll need to actually know history, not just dream about it. The class laughed. Usually Izuku would flinch, stammer an apology, and shrink. Today, Izuku slowly turned his head. He looked at the teacher. His eyes were calm, bordered by dark circles, but steady. Green met the teacher's gaze and held it. I was listening, Sensei, Izuku said. His voice was level. No stutter. You were discussing the Quirk Ratification Treaty of 2104 and how it impacted vigilante laws. The teacher blinked. The class went quiet. The stutter was gone. The frantic energy was gone. In its place was a stillness that felt unnerving. Yes. Correct, the teacher muttered, turning back to the board. At lunch, the confrontation happened. Izuku was eating a bento box packed with excessive amounts of protein and vegetables. Inko was following a meal plan Kakashi had written on a napkin. Slam! An explosion rocked the table, incinerating Izuku's chopsticks. Oi, Deku! Bakugo Katsuki loomed over him, smoke rising from his palms. His lackeys snickered behind him. You've been acting weird lately. Walking around like you're better than us, like you're hiding something. Izuku looked at the charred remains of his chopsticks. He sighed. I needed those to eat, Kaken. Don't ignore me! Bakugo roared. He swung a right hook, explosive power behind it. In the past, Izuku would have cowered. In the past, he would have screamed. Izuku didn't move his body. He simply tilted his head to the left. Bakugo's fist sailed past his ear, the heat singing his hair. Before Bakugo could retract, Izuku's hand shot out. He didn't punch. He didn't grab. He tapped two fingers against the inside of Bakugo's elbow, a pressure point Kakashi had showed him on a diagram. Bakugo's arm went numb. The explosion sputtered out. What the hell? Bakugo gasped, clutching his arm. Izuku stood up. He was slightly shorter than Bakugo, but he stood with a posture that made him seem taller. Shoulders back. Chin up. Hands loose at his sides, ready. I'm not fighting you, Kaken, Izuku said quietly. I don't have time for this. I have training. He picked up his bento box and walked away. Come back here! Bakugo screamed, trying to ignite his sweat, but his arm refused to cooperate. DKU! Izuku walked out of the cafeteria. His heart was racing, but his hands were steady. I didn't freeze, he thought. I read the trajectory. I applied the countermeasure. I disengaged. He looked at his hand. There was a small, white scar running across his palm, a souvenir from a wire trap he had failed to disarm last week. I'm not the same person anymore. The philosophy of the blade. 6 months into the training, the sun was setting over the ocean, casting long shadows across the beach. Izuku was sitting on the seawall with Jiraiya. They were sharing a popsicle. Erosenin, Izuku asked. He had picked up the nickname from Naruto's stories, much to Jiraiya's fake annoyance. Why do we train with weapons? He gestured to the tanto, short sword, strapped to his back. It was a wooden practice sword for now, but the weight was real. Heroes don't use swords, Izuku continued. Or shuriken. They use their fists. They use non-lethal captures. If I pull a knife on a villain, won't people think I'm bad? Jiraiya took a bite of his popsicle. He looked out at the waves. The playful pervert facade dropped, replaced by the weary eyes of a war veteran. Izuku. What is a hero to you? Someone who saves everyone, Izuku answered instantly. Someone who wins with a smile. A noble goal, Jiraiya nodded. But tell me, when that sludge villain had your friend, could All Might save him without hurting the villain? No. He had to smash him apart. And if the villain had a gun to a child's head? And the only way to stop him was to end him before he pulled the trigger? What then? Izuku went silent. I don't know. The world isn't black and white, kid. It's gray. Infinite shades of gray, Jiraiya said. Heroes in this world, they are celebrities. They perform on a stage. They have rules of engagement designed for cameras. Jiraiya turned to look at him. Shinobi are different. We exist in the shadows. We do the things the heroes can't, or won't do. We carry weapons not because we want to kill, but because we must be efficient. Efficient, Izuku tested the word. If you fight a villain for 10 minutes, punching and kicking, you endanger civilians for 10 minutes. Buildings collapse. People get hurt, Jiraiya explained. If you disable a villain in 3 seconds with a blade to a tendon, or a Senbon needle to the neck, you save 10 minutes of destruction. But killing intent, Izuku whispered. Kakashi-sensei keeps telling me to show it. I don't want to kill anyone. Killing intent isn't about murder, Jiraiya said softly. It's about resolve. It's the absolute certainty that you will remove the threat, by any means necessary, to protect what is precious to you. Jiraiya tapped Izuku's chest. When you faced that sludge villain, you didn't think about the laws. You didn't think about your safety. You just wanted to save your friend. You were ready to die. That is the seed of killing intent. It's the willingness to trade your soul for someone else's life. Izuku looked down at the wooden sword. He gripped the hilt. So, I become the darkness to protect the light? Something like that, Jiraiya smiled sadly. Just don't lose yourself in it. That's why you have us. To pull you back, Izuku nodded. He understood. He wasn't just learning to fight, he was learning to bear a burden. The breakthrough. Month 8. Winter. The ocean was freezing. Snow dusted the trash piles on the beach. Izuku stood on the water. The waves were choppy, driven by a winter storm. The sea heaved and rolled. Izuku breathed out a plume of white mist. He closed his eyes. Don't fight the ocean. Be the ocean. He visualized his chakra not as a solid plate, but as a fluid extension of his own nervous system. When the wave rose, he rose. When it fell, he fell. He adjusted his flow constantly, thousands of micro-adjustments per second. He opened his eyes. He began to walk. He walked 10 meters out. The water swirled beneath his boots, but he didn't sink. He walked 20 meters. A wave crashed over his knees, but his feet stayed glued to the surface. He began to run. He sprinted across the tops of the waves, moving with a grace that defied physics. He felt weightless. He felt powerful. Hey! He shouted, turning back to the shore. I'm doing it! Sensei! I'm doing it! On the beach, huddled around a fire in a rusted oil drum, Jiraiya and Kakashi watched. Took him long enough, Kakashi grumbled, though he was warming his hands with a satisfied look. He's got the hang of it, Jiraiya nodded. His control is solid. Better than Naruto's was at this stage, honestly. The kid's a nerd. He dissected the technique. He's ready for the next step, Kakashi said. Elemental affinity? That, Kakashi nodded. And the Rasengan? Jiraiya laughed. You want to teach him the Rasengan? It took the fourth 3 years to invent it. Izuku has 3 years, Kakashi pointed out. And he has us. On the water, Izuku tripped over a whitecap and face-planted into the freezing sea. Well, Jiraiya chuckled. Maybe let him dry off first. Year 1 finale, the spar. The 1-year mark arrived with the blooming of cherry blossoms. The beach looked different now. Nearly a third of the trash was gone, cleared by Izuku's bare hands and chakra-enhanced muscles. The sand was returning. To mark the end of the first year, Kakashi ordered a spar. No bells this time, Kakashi said, standing in the center of the cleared zone. Combat rules. Hand-to-hand and weapons only. No ninjutsu beyond basics. Izuku stood opposite him. He wore a new outfit, dark green cargo pants, a black compression shirt, and metal arm guards Jiraiya had fashioned from scrap metal. He had a pouch of blunt kunai on his leg. Begin. This time, Izuku didn't throw sand. He moved. He used the body flicker. It wasn't perfect, there was still a slight lag, but it was fast. He closed the gap instantly. Kakashi threw a punch. Izuku ducked, weaving under the arm, and slashed with his wooden tanto. Kakashi parried with a kunai. Clack! Izuku didn't retreat. He spun, using the momentum of the block to deliver a roundhouse kick. Kakashi blocked, but he slid back 2 inches in the sand. Oh? Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Heavier. Izuku pressed the advantage. He unleashed a barrage of strong fist strikes, jabs, elbows, knees. He mixed in feints. He used a substitution jutsu, swapping with a log he had pre-placed, to avoid a sweep kick. He was relentless. He was calculating, but Kakashi was a master. Kakashi began to dismantle him. A strike to the shoulder. A trip. A palm to the chest that knocked the wind out of him. Izuku hit the sand hard. He rolled backward, flipping to his feet. He was panting, bruised, and bleeding from his lip, but he was smiling. I touched your vest, Izuku grinned, holding up a small silver button. Kakashi looked down. His flak jacket was missing a button. He hadn't even felt it being cut. Kakashi looked at the button in Izuku's hand, then up at the boy's face. The fear was gone. The hesitation was gone. Standing there was a warrior in the making. Not bad, Kakashi said. He pocketed his kunai. Does that mean I win? Izuku asked hopefully. It means you survive, Kakashi said. But don't get cocky. Next year, we introduce nature transformation. And Jiraiya has some ideas. Jiraiya walked up, clapping slowly. Excellent show. The toad, the scarecrow, and the rabbit. We're quite the team. Rabbit? Izuku asked. You, Jiraiya pointed. You jump around a lot. And you're green. I guess that works, Izuku laughed. He looked at his hands. They were calloused, scarred, and strong. He felt the chakra humming in his veins, a river of energy that connected him to the earth, to the water, to the air. He looked at the city skyline. Somewhere out there was Yue High. Somewhere out there was All Might. I'm coming, Izuku thought. I'm not walking on the path you set for me. I'm walking on my own. All right, rabbit, Jiraiya threw an arm around his shoulder. Celebratory ramen. My treat. Since I stole Kakashi's wallet. You what? Kakashi patted his empty pocket. Jiraiya. As the 3 of them walked off the beach, bickering and laughing, the sun set on the first year of training. The foundation was laid. The water had been conquered. Now, it was time to harness the storm. The calendar on the wall of the Midoriya apartment had many dates circled in red, but the most important one wasn't a birthday or a holiday. It was the mark indicating the halfway point of the 3-year hell training. 18 months. Izuku Midoriya sat on the floor of his bedroom, which had undergone a drastic transformation. The All Might posters were still there. Old habits die hard, but they were now competing for wall space with detailed diagrams of the human chakra pathway system, maps of the Muzurifu sewer network, and complex sketches of physics vectors. He held a small, square piece of paper between his index and middle finger. Focus, Kakashi's voice echoed in his memory, though the man was currently miles away at the beach. Chakra is energy. Nature is form. Push your energy into the paper and see how it reacts. Izuku took a deep breath. He closed his eyes, visualizing the blue flame in his stomach. By now, accessing his chakra was as natural as flexing a muscle. He guided the flow up his spine, through his shoulder, down his arm, and into his fingertips. Flow. He opened his eyes. The paper reacted instantly. First, a clean, sharp tear appeared right down the middle, slicing the paper into 2 perfect halves. Then, almost simultaneously, the left half of the severed paper crinkled violently, wrinkling up as if electrocuted. Izuku stared at the scraps falling to his carpet. Cut and wrinkle, Izuku whispered, his eyes widening. He scrambled for his notebook, the one labeled Shinobi Arts, Volume 3. Cutting implies wind release, futon. Wrinkling implies lightning release, raiton. He had to. A grin, wide and uncontainable, split his face. Most shinobi in the stories Jiraiya told him only started with 1. To have 2, and specifically these 2. I can be like sensei, he murmured. Dagoba Beach, the elemental class. The beach was unrecognizable compared to the landfill it had been a year and a half ago. The mountains of trash were now merely hills, pushed to the periphery to create a massive, flat training arena of packed sand. The ocean view was clear. Kakashi Hatake stood by a rusted truck chassis, examining the pieces of paper Izuku had brought him. Wind and lightning, Kakashi said, his visible eye curving into a pleased crescent. I expected lightning, given how much time you spend around me. Chakra acts like a virus sometimes. Exposure to a master can influence the student's developing coils. But wind. Kakashi looked at Jiraiya, who was sitting on a lawn chair, sharpening a massive stone sword he'd carved for fun. Wind is rare, Jiraiya noted. Naruto was a wind type. It's a combat-heavy affinity. Good for cutting. Good for mid-range. It's a powerful combination, Kakashi agreed. Wind provides the cutting edge and the shockwave. Lightning provides the piercing power and the speed enhancement. If you master both, you become a storm. Izuku vibrated with excitement. So, do I learn the Chidori now? Or the Rasengan? Patience, rabbit, Kakashi chided. Knowing your affinity is just the first step. Now you have to master the transformation. Kakashi walked over to a pile of driftwood. He picked up a dry leaf. Step 1, wind, Kakashi said. He held the leaf flat in his palm. Cut this leaf in half using only your chakra. No knives. No tearing. He focused for a split second. The leaf severed cleanly, the top half floating away in the breeze. You have to grind your chakra, Kakashi explained. Visualize two surfaces rubbing against each other incredibly fast. Sharpen it into a blade as thin as a molecule. He handed Izuku a leaf. And for lightning? Izuku asked, taking the leaf. Kakashi held up his hand. Sparks danced between his fingertips, purple, erratic, and noisy. Bzzzt crack. For lightning you don't grind. You vibrate. You excite the energy until it breaks down into plasma. It's about frequency and chaos. Kakashi reached into his pouch and tossed Izuku a frantic, buzzing beetle. Don't hurt it, Kakashi said. But use your chakra to numb its legs so it stops moving. If you use too much power, you fry it. If you use too little, it flies away. Izuku looked at the leaf in his left hand and the beetle in his right. Both? Shinobi multitask, Kakashi said, pulling out his Ika book. Get to work. If you kill the beetle, you owe me lunch. The grind, month 19 to 21. The next 3 months were a lesson in frustration. When nature was tedious. Izuku spent weeks holding leaves, staring at them, straining until his veins popped, only for the leaf to remain stubbornly whole. It's not about force. Jiraiya yelled one afternoon, watching Izuku sweat. You're trying to smash the leaf with air. You have to slice it. Imagine your chakra is a serrated knife. Izuku sat in the sand, closing his eyes. He thought about All Might's punches, creating wind pressure through sheer force. That was blunt wind. That wasn't what he needed. He thought about a high-frequency blade. He thought about sound waves, vibration, oscillation. Sharpen the edge. He focused on the thinnest possible line across the leaf's center. He imagined his chakra rubbing together, friction creating an edge. Snap. The leaf didn't just cut. The top half flew off, as if shot by a gun. I did it! Izuku cheered. Good, Kakashi said, not looking up. Now do it with 10 leaves at once. Lightning was more dangerous. Izuku shocked himself constantly. His hair, already unruly, became a permanent static frizz. He spent days walking around with numb fingers because he miscalculated the voltage, but the science of it fascinated him. It's electron manipulation, Izuku mumbled to himself during a break, sketching a diagram in the sand. If I treat my chakra as a conductive medium, I can increase the amperage while keeping the voltage controlled to avoid tissue damage. He's speaking nerd again, Jiraiya observed. Let him, Kakashi said. He processes the mystical through the scientific. It's his way. As long as the result is lightning, I don't care if he calls it magic or physics. Eventually, the breakthrough came. Izuku learned to channel a low-current charge into his hand, not enough to be a Chidori, but enough to numb a nerve or short-circuit a simple electronic lock. Utility, Kakashi nodded approvingly. Flashy jutsu kill enemies. Utility Jutsu Win Wars, Jiraiya's curriculum, the bingo book. While Kakashi handled the elements, Jiraiya handled the mind. They were sitting in a busy outdoor cafe in the center of Mizurufu. It was a Saturday. Civilians bustled by. Heroes patrolled the streets, waving to fans. "Tell me about him," Jiraiya said, pointing his chopstick at a man sitting 3 tables away. Izuku looked. Male. Roughly 40. Wearing a business suit. Eating curry. "Deeper," Jiraiya commanded. Izuku narrowed his eyes. He tapped into the observation skills Kakashi had beaten into him, and the analytical mind he had born with. His shoes are scuffed on the left toe, suggesting he drags that foot or rides a motorcycle and shifts gears often. He keeps checking his watch every 30 seconds, impatience or a deadline. He's sitting with his back to the wall, facing the exit. Paranoia? Good, Jiraiya nodded. Now, look at his hands. Calluses on the knuckles. And a faint burn mark on the index finger. Conclusion? He's not a salaryman, Izuku whispered. He's a heavy hitter. Maybe a brawler type. And the burn, fire quirk? Or a smoker? He's a retired sidekick named Magma Fist, Jiraiya revealed. I saw him on a poster. But you read the threat correctly. Now, look at that hero over there. Jiraiya pointed to Backdraft, who was signing autographs near a fire hydrant. Your old notebooks, Jiraiya said, slurping his tea. I read them. Hero analysis for the future. Cute, Izuku blushed. They were optimistic. They were fanboy drivel, Jiraiya said bluntly. You listed their special moves, their catchphrases, their costume materials. You wrote about them like they were gods. Jiraiya slammed his cup down. A shinobi does not worship. A shinobi assesses. From now on, you don't write hero analysis. You write bingo books. Bingo books? Lists of targets, Jiraiya said darkly. Weaknesses. Blind spots. Psychological triggers. If Backdraft went rogue tomorrow and tried to drown this city, how would you kill him? Izuku froze. Kill him? But he's a hero. Anyone can become an enemy, Izuku. A villain with a mind control quirk. A hero having a mental breakdown. Or simply a corrupt system turning against you. You need to know how to take down everyone, even All Might. Izuku looked down at his hands. The idea of planning to kill All Might made him nauseous. It's not about wanting to do it, Jiraiya softened his tone. It's about being prepared to do it. That is the burden of the shadow. We prepare for the worst so we can protect the best. Izuku opened his backpack and pulled out a fresh notebook. He took a black marker and wrote on the cover, Threat Assessment, Volume 1. He looked at Backdraft. Target relies on external water sources. Sever the connection to the hydrant. Armor is bulky, mobility is low. Exposed joints at the knees. Electrical vulnerability high. He wrote it down. It felt cold. It felt clinical. It felt powerful. The Rasengan, Phase 1. Year 1, Month 9. Okay, kid. It's time for the crown jewel, Jiraiya announced. They were back at the beach. Jiraiya held his hand out. Watch closely. No hand signs. No chanting. Jiraiya's chakra flared. In his palm, a blue sphere of swirling energy formed. It roared like a jet engine, the air distorting around it. The sand beneath Jiraiya's feet was blown away in a perfect circle. The Rasengan, Jiraiya shouted over the noise. The spiraling sphere. The highest level of shape transformation. It grinds, it rotates, it destroys. No nature affinity needed, just pure, condensed chakra control. He slammed it into a large boulder. Crack boom. The boulder didn't just break. It was spiraled out of existence, leaving a crater in the cliffside behind it. Izuku's jaw hit the floor. That's stronger than a smash. It's different, Jiraiya dispelled the dust. A smash is a shotgun blast. This is a drill. It attacks the internal structure. He reached into a bag and pulled out a water balloon. Step 1, Jiraiya tossed it to Izuku. Pop this. Using only your chakra. Create rotation inside the water until the pressure rips the rubber apart. Izuku caught the balloon. That's it. Just pop it, just pop it. Izuku held the balloon. He pushed his chakra into it. The water jiggled. Nothing happened. This is going to be harder than it looks, isn't it? Much harder, Jiraiya grinned evilly. The physics of rotation. 2 weeks later, Izuku was ready to tear his hair out. He had popped 0 balloons. He sat on the swings at the neighborhood park, staring at the wobbly water balloon in his hands. It was late evening. Why won't you break? He muttered to the rubber. He spun the chakra left. The water swirled. He spun the chakra right. The water swirled. The balloon stretched, distorted, but refused to burst. Force equals mass times acceleration, Izuku whispered, his brain switching to science mode. The water has mass. My chakra provides the acceleration. But the rubber has elasticity. I need to exceed the tensile strength of the rubber. He watched a cat chase its tail in the sandbox. The cat spun in a tight circle. Rotation, Izuku said. If I spin the water in one direction, the friction is uniform. The rubber expands uniformly. It stretches, but doesn't tear. He thought about a washing machine. He thought about a hurricane. Turbulence, Izuku's eyes lit up. If I create a dominant rotation, but introduce a countercurrent, or chaotic vibration, he looked at the balloon. I don't need a smooth stream. I need a storm. He closed his eyes. He visualized the wind training, the cutting edge. He visualized the lightning training, the chaotic vibration. He spun the chakra clockwise with 80% of his focus. Then, he slammed a spike of chaotic, vibrating chakra directly into the center of the vortex. The water inside went berserk. It wasn't just spinning, it was thrashing, wobble, distort, expand, pop. Cold water splashed all over Izuku's face. He sat there, dripping wet, blinking in the streetlight. I did it, he whispered. Then louder. I calculated the sheer stress and I did it. Talking to yourself again, Deku? The voice was low, gravelly, and laced with hostility. Izuku froze. He knew that voice. He wiped the water from his eyes and looked up. Standing at the entrance of the park, hands in his pockets, flanked by 2 lackeys, was Katsuki Bakugo. The encounter. It had been months since the cafeteria incident. Izuku had become a ghost at school, sleeping through classes, disappearing at lunch, vanishing immediately after the bell. Bakugo hadn't been able to corner him, until now. You've been avoiding me, Bakugo snarled, walking into the park. His friends hung back, sensing the tension. You think you're better than me? Just because you learned some cheap parlor tricks? Izuku stood up slowly. He didn't drop the scraps of the balloon. He put them in his pocket. Leave no trace. I'm not avoiding you, Kaken, Izuku said calmly. I'm just busy. Busy doing what? Bakugo stopped 5 meters away. Playing hero? With those homeless weirdos you hang out with? Izuku's eyes hardened. Don't call them that. Or what? Bakugo smirked. Sparks popped in his palms. You gonna fight me? You. The quirkless loser? I don't want to fight. Too bad. Bakugo didn't wait for a bell. He lunged. He blasted the ground behind him to propel himself forward. His signature move. He was fast. Much faster than he had been a year ago. He was training to die. Bakugo swung a right hook, heavily enhanced by a massive explosion. Time seemed to slow for Izuku. Threat assessment. Explosion, right hand. Lethal at point-blank range. Trajectory is linear. Emotional state, unstable. Option A, block. Result, burn damage. Unacceptable. Option B, dodge. Result, he follows up with a left. Option C, shinobi engagement. Izuku didn't dodge. He stood his ground until the very last millisecond. Bakugo's grin widened. He's frozen. I got him. The explosion connected. Boom! Smoke and fire engulfed the area where Izuku stood. Whoa! Bakugo, you killed him! One of the lackeys shouted. Bakugo skidded to a halt, panting. He looked at the smoke. He should have moved. Why didn't he move? Panic flared in Bakugo's chest. He wanted to beat Deku, not incinerate him. The smoke cleared. Standing in the crater, smoking slightly, was a log. Not Izuku Midoriya. A log. A piece of driftwood from the beach, charred black. What? Bakugo's eyes bulged. A log? Looking for someone? The voice came from above. Bakugo snapped his head up. Izuku was perched on top of the swing set's metal frame, crouching like a gargoyle. He was perfectly balanced on the thin bar. How? Bakugo stepped back, his brain failing to compute. You were right there. I hit you. I felt it hit. Body replacement jutsu, Izuku said quietly. Kawarimi. It's a basic substitution. I switched places with the log the moment before impact. That's impossible. Bakugo screamed. That's a teleportation quirk. You were hiding a quirk all this time? It's not a quirk, Izuku said. He stood up on the bar, looking down at his childhood friend. For the first time, Bakugo realized something terrifying. Izuku wasn't looking at him with fear. He wasn't looking at him with admiration. He was looking at him tactically. Like Bakugo was a problem to be solved, a puzzle to be dismantled. You rely too much on your eyes, Kaken, Izuku said. And you telegraph your attacks with your screaming. Shut up. Bakugo aimed his hands up. I'll blast you off that. Whoosh. A sudden gust of wind kicked up sand, blinding Bakugo. When he rubbed the grit from his eyes, the swing set was empty. Izuku was gone. Bakugo stood in the empty park, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. The silence was louder than any explosion. Deku. Bakugo whispered, his hands shaking. What the hell are you? The Rasengan, Phase 2. So, you scared the explosive boy, Jiraiya laughed the next day, tossing a rubber ball into the air. I didn't mean to scare him, Izuku said, bandaging his fingers. The water balloon popping had chafed them raw. I just de-escalated. Using a kawarimi against a civilian is overkill, Kakashi commented from his book. But hilarious. Good job on the timing. Now, Jiraiya caught the rubber ball. Phase 2. Power. He handed the rubber ball to Izuku. The water balloon was about rotation. The rubber ball is about density. There is no water inside to help you. You have to fill this ball with your chakra and spin it hard enough to explode the rubber. Izuku squeezed the ball. It was thick, solid rubber. If the water balloon was a 10 in difficulty, Jiraiya said, this is a 100. Izuku looked at the ball. He thought about the log he had switched with. He thought about Bakugo's terrified face. He wasn't the victim anymore. He was the one who vanished in the smoke. I'll do it, Izuku said. It took me 3 months, Jiraiya warned. Izuku grinned. I'll do it in 3 weeks. Kakashi noted. Confident, Izuku corrected. The purple electricity. While struggling with the rubber ball, Kakashi decided to upgrade Izuku's arsenal. The Chidori is an assassination technique, Kakashi explained one rainy afternoon. They were under the shelter of a concrete overpass. It requires running at the enemy in a straight line at maximum speed. Without a Sharingan to predict counterattacks, it is suicide. I cannot teach it to you, Izuku nodded. He knew this. So I can't use lightning style offensively? I didn't say that. Kakashi held out his hand. Instead of the chirping, focused blade of the Chidori, a burst of purple lightning erupted. It didn't form a blade. It formed a cloud, a web of electricity that lashed out in all directions. Lightning release, purple electricity, Shurden, Kakashi introduced. I developed this after I lost my Sharingan in my old life. It doesn't require tunnel vision. It's an area of effect attack. It can be a blast, a stream, or a shield. It's beautiful, Izuku stared at the violet arcs. It's versatile, Kakashi corrected. And it fits your style. You are a thinker. This jutsu can be adapted. Chidori is a spear. Purple electricity is a net. Kakashi dissipated the lightning. To learn this, you need to master the vibration frequency I showed you with the beetle. But you have to scale it up. You have to become a battery. The vigilante run. Year 1.5, month 11. Put this on. Jiraiya tossed a bundle of clothes at Izuku. It was night. They were on the roof of a warehouse in the industrial district. Izuku unfolded the clothes. It was a dark gray hoodie, black cargo pants, and a simple white porcelain mask with a green rabbit painted on the forehead. A costume? Field gear, Kakashi said. He was wearing his standard flak jacket, but he had a hood up over his silver hair. Jiraiya wore a dark cloak. Tonight we test your skills in the real world, Jiraiya said. No simulations. No logs. We're going to fight villains? Izuku asked, his pulse quickening. We're going to stop a mugging, Kakashi said. There's a gang operating in this sector. The police are too slow. The pros are too busy signing autographs uptown. Remember, Jiraiya warned. No lethal force. We are ghosts. We strike, we disable, we vanish. If anyone sees your face, you fail. They moved across the rooftops. Izuku felt the wind rushing past him. He moved silently, his chakra-enhanced feet making no sound on the gravel roofs. He felt free. Target acquired, Kakashi signaled. In the alley below, 3 men with mutation quirks, one with spikes, one with big arms, one with a tail, had cornered a young woman. Hand over the purse, lady. Izuku looked at Kakashi. Kakashi nodded. Izuku dropped. He didn't land with a crash. He landed silently behind the man with the tail. Hey, Izuku whispered. The man turned. Huh! Izuku didn't punch. He placed his palm on the man's chest. Lightning release, stun gun. A small, controlled pulse of electricity surged into the villain. His eyes rolled back, and he collapsed like a sack of potatoes. The other 2 spun around. Who the hell are you? The spike villain lunged. Izuku didn't retreat. He used wind release on the soles of his feet. Whoosh! He sidestepped with blinding speed, leaving an afterimage. He appeared behind the big-armed villain. He kicked the back of the knee, forcing the villain down, then delivered a chop to the carotid artery. 2 down. The last villain, the spike guy, panicked. He pulled a knife. Stay back. Izuku stood there, the rabbit mask glowing in the moonlight. He raised his hand. He channeled chakra. Not lightning. Not wind. He projected killing intent. For a second, the villain didn't see a boy in a mask. He saw a predator. He saw his own death reflecting in the white porcelain. The knife clattered to the ground. The villain fell to his knees, terrified. I surrender. Don't eat me. Izuku blinked behind the mask. Eat him? Let's go. Kakashi's voice came from the shadows. Izuku grappled up to the fire escape just as police sirens wailed in the distance. From a rooftop 2 blocks away, a figure wrapped in capture tape watched through binoculars. Eraserhead lowered the binoculars. He looked tired. 3 villains disabled in 10 seconds, Aizawa muttered. No quirks used. Just martial arts, a taser effect, and pure intimidation. He looked at the rooftop where the 3 figures were disappearing. Vigilantes? Or something else? He rubbed his dry eyes. I need coffee. Conclusion of year 1.5. Back at the apartment, Izuku took off the mask. He was shaking. Not from fear, but from adrenaline. I did it, he said. I actually saved someone. You did, Jiraiya grinned, opening a beer. And you didn't break any bones. Improvement. Your movement was efficient, Kakashi added. But you hesitated with the killing intent. You held back. I didn't want to traumatize him, Izuku admitted. Better traumatized than dead, Kakashi shrugged. Izuku looked at his hands. One held the power of wind. The other held the power of lightning. And his mind held the knowledge of the bingo book. He was halfway there. Next phase, Jiraiya said, looking at the calendar. Summoning. Izuku froze. Summoning? Like animals? Toads, Jiraiya corrected. The most noble and handsome of all creatures. Kakashi rolled his eye. Dogs are better. Toads, dogs. As his sensei argued, Izuku smiled. He walked over to his desk and opened Threat Assessment, Volume 1. He turned to the page labeled Bakugo Katsuki. He picked up his pen and added a new note. Weakness, psychological reliance on intimidation. Susceptible to confusion tactics. Fear of the unknown. He closed the book. I'm ready, Izuku said.